When you turned 8, I gave you that huge box of crayons. Do you remember that? And you drew this big spaceship, a rainbow ship. That's what you called it. And you were so embarrassed. I was so proud. I was so proud.
Do you remember the day Dad left? We stayed up all night building Castle Byers. Just the way you drew it. And it took so long because you were so bad at hammering.
Do you remember the first day that we met? It was the first day of kindergarten. I saw you on the swings. And you were just swinging by yourself. I just walked up to you and I asked.
Do you want to be friends?
I asked if you wanted to be my friend. And you said yes. You said yes. It was the best thing I've ever done.
And you broke so easily. You showed me what was possible, what I could achieve. Some minds, it turns out, simply do not belong in this world.
Will has been through a lot. Not to say other characters in Stranger Things haven't, but he is up there in regards to undeserved and traumatic experiences. And you'd think in the final seasons, with the risk of killing some of its characters off, the show would target characters more fitting narratively. Those who are maybe a mentor figure, those who have already completed their narrative arc, those who live life far more fortunate in contrast to all the chaos, or even those who truly deserve it. Though, instead, I've come to the conclusion that if any character isn't going to make it out of this season alive, it's likely to be Will. Let me explain. Volume 1 of Season 5 was absolutely amazing. And while I do personally prefer Season 4 for its horror elements and shocking moments within its episodes, Season 5, Volume 1 does do a great job of balancing out its many characters and utilizing them well. And it seems they finally decided to start giving my boy Will some more important narrative arcs. Will's character was important in Season 1, but he wasn't very present as he was missing for most of the season. In Season 2, they decided to put Noah's acting chops to the test, and he passed with flying colors, giving an amazing and dynamic performance at such a young age. Then in Season 3, narratively, they all wanted the kids to have a fun summer. A bit of happiness in the middle of this grand story. Only in Stranger Things, happiness for them is just being able to live somewhat normally. In Will's life, before Season 1, what you would consider normal was already pretty crap. His father having left him, getting bullied at school, and relatively finding himself to be in the minority even amongst his own friends. So when it comes to Season 3, we get even more glimpses of that, as his friends neglect him now that he's safe and sound, and he's not very tied to any primary plot points of the season. And the bullying even existed outside of the show in regards to people still having to look at that awful bowl cut. And by the end of the season, he's sent off to live with Eleven in California. At the time, I thought this meant he had to be tied to the main plotline in some way, seeing as Eleven would be with him. And she's arguably the main character of the story. But when Season 4 comes around, Will is yet again left with the most uninteresting storyline in the season, being yet again neglected by his friends and family, And even the writers who decided to kind of rewrite the fact that everybody forgot his birthday when they were so focused on 11 at the skating rink. And Will's narrative arc during this time, mainly just trying to navigate his sexuality with Mike, who had seemed to devolve from an emotionally supportive and empathetic friend to a strangely obtuse and emotionally stunted dweeb who has a hard time understanding or maintaining his relationships. However, Will did get some heartwarming moments. In the end, he was not a pivotal character of the season. But this all changed in Season 5. Season 5, Volume 1 did Will justice by also doing all the other characters justice. All the characters return to their roots, and utilizing all the lessons they learned, they become the best version of themselves. And if not, then the version that's just the most narratively fitting. And this helps a lot with characters like Robin and Mike. Robin being a mentor figure to Will and an open ear and heart to confide in, like Steve was for Dustin. Both of these older teens helping these kids navigating growing up under different sets of struggles, while also supporting each other and becoming almost the best of friends. Speaking of which, comment down below if you want a car crew video with Dustin, Steve, Nancy, and John. Anyways, Mike is finally acting like he did in the first 2 seasons. Now, I don't blame the character for veering off course, as kids often grow up and have to learn to be decent people. Still, it's nice to see him act like himself again. And these 2 characters, alongside with his other friends and the best mom in the world besides Steve, were able to help Will become the best version of his self, finally showing us that he always had the fight in him. In the first season, him grabbing the rifle was proof enough for me, and in Season 5's opening minutes, him using the rifle efficiently was even more proof.
Pop him, walk him down, Wheeler, or Byers.
Though as Season 5 went on, I was getting worried. Sure, we were getting more focus on Will as a character, but he is simply bearing witness to all the chaos as well as suffering at the same time. Constantly fearful, but still trying to help, but there's obviously only so much he can do when the Demogorgons actually arrive and attack.
What are you gonna do, Mike? You don't even have a candle to defend yourself with.
Especially when they start getting burned, him feeling just as much pain, reminding us of the connection that we saw in Season 2. And seeing him writhe around in pain is tough to watch. Great acting from Noah Schnapp, who's perfectly capturing Will's horrendous screams. And when Vecna arrived to cause more mayhem, I almost forgot he was there to take the kids and genuinely felt like he just showed up to flex on Will for no reason. And the trailers even reiterated this belief. What was Vecna after? We see him targeting children, and it's fair to assume these children have insecurities and fears that he can tap into, as he did with the victims from Season 4. Especially given his speech about weak in body and mind, and the similarities to Will. Will, who also shares these similarities with both Eleven and Henry themselves. But I touch more on Will and Vecna's similarities in my other video. We also see that Vecna is setting the kids up like he did with Will, similar to a xenomorph victim. Only not for Will, who got hunted for sport by a Demogorgon, and the other kids who saw their nightmares before getting massacred. But this new group has it pretty easily. Hopefully I don't come to regret those words. It's possible he's slowly draining them of their psychic connection. As we know, with each of his kills, he does gain more strength, or perchance he's using these psychic connections to further thin the veil between dimensions, hoping to let the Upside Down run rampant through the regular world. Either way, it's obvious that Vecna is becoming more strong and more mind flayer than Henry, especially with his body being so affected by bullets in Season 4 versus Season 5, where we see the mind flayer tendrils shielding him from most of the gunfire. And I fully expected him at some point to rampage through the military as a show of force, and was not disappointed. What I did not expect was Will to tap into the same connection and utilize it for himself, as well as the amazing scene that followed that had me going crazy.
It's like I couldn't fly.
Will the Wise! Help! Let's go! Powers, baby, powers! What about my boy Lucas, though? Yes! My boy Will! My boy Will's going ham right now. Hell yeah! Is he about the Vecna, the Demogorgons?
But as soon as the scene ended, I just had this really bad feeling in my gut about the entire ordeal.
That's not Will. That's not Will.
With more time to process, I realized that I was partially wrong. Will was actually likely doing this himself with the intentions of saving his friends after witnessing how Vecna did the same thing. However, that doesn't negate the idea that Vecna could have further influenced him. I still think he could have left something crawling up into his ear.
You do not belong in this world.
Wait, what? What's he doing? I thought he's just letting Will go? No, he put something in his ear.
Either way, Will's new access to these powers may not be a good thing. Think about why exactly did Vecna leave Will? You could argue he was mainly after the kids, and sure, while after them he could have sensed Will and purposely decided to mock him, despite killing almost every other living person. But I personally believe there's more else at play. Is it possible that Vecna either did something to Will in this moment, or is even fully confident here because he knows how things play out? As in, Vecna can glimpse the future and knew this moment would come? We already know he was able to show Nancy a vision of the future, and while she claimed she saw her family likely dying, we did see in that moment itself glimpses of the gates opening all around Hawkins, which did actually end up transpiring. We also see in the opening minutes of season 5 that Vecna claimed he and Will do beautiful things together. So here's my theory. The powers, the visions of the future, the connection, it's all the Mind Flayer. But for a long time, Henry maintained control of the Mind Flayer for the most part, still likely being tainted mentally and becoming a darker version of himself, but we see in the first shadow that Henry does fight back against the Mind Flayer's influence, though over time he succumbs more and more to it. And with getting blasted by Nancy in season 4, this leaves most of Henry now gone. And the less we have of Henry, the more we have of the Mind Flayer. Which means the more consistent these powers or even visions of the future could actually be. Hence why Vecna could have showed up in season 5 and simply let Will go. Likely because Will's importance later down the line. We know in the trailer at some point Vecna references Will helping him one last time. So while we could assume Vecna is trying to use the kids and their psychic connections to further thin the barrier between dimensions as 11 did with both Henry and the demo, we have to wonder what Will's part to play in all this truly is, especially considering he seems to be stronger than 11 compared to her own struggles against the demo. Coupled this with his ability of being a sort of spy of sorts. But can we trust that Vecna's influence won't affect Will the more he taps into these powers? We will need to watch out for personality shifts, or maybe he'll just be totally fine and just access to some cool new gifts. No matter the answer, these powers, like 11, like Calais, and like Henry's, likely came from the Mind Flayer and the particles inside of their DNA, which leads you to wonder why Will feels pain around the demos but 11 doesn't. And you also have to wonder how strong this connection is, as is it even possible to hurt Vecna without also hurting Will? And does this transpire to even death? With everything we've seen so far, it's fair to say that a likely possibility is Will sacrificing himself to stop Vecna. This is not only alluded to in D&D lore, but is also narratively fitting for the character. Despite the fact that he definitely deserves better, the tragic death of Will would really bring the narrative full circle back to season 1. When he first disappeared and everyone was eager to find him, it's easy to forget that his family and friends also had to grieve for his potential loss. They all had to juggle with the idea that he was truly gone, even with faulty evidence to prove it. And like with Joyce, since he's been back, we've all wanted him to stay safe and be happy. Which is why it makes letting go that much more dramatic, which the series will likely aim for considering it's the final season. We could potentially lose other characters too, but at this point, despite my claims in my death predictions video for the series, Will is most likely to die and not make it out of the season. Or so I originally thought. But I also think there's a small chance that Will do something to sacrifice himself and stop Vecna, and rather than die, simply disappear. Maybe leaving us with a character getting one last glimpse of lights flickering by the end of the series to show that he could still potentially be out there, but everyone's ready to let him go. But what do y'all think? Are you excited for the rest of season 5? What are Vecna's plans, and what is Will's place in them? Will Joyce lose a son, or will the Byers boys lose a mom? And are those kids doomed to suffer the same fate as Will, considering they're caught up in the same situation? Either way, let me know down below. Appreciate your support, appreciate your feedback. And remember, it's gonna take the power of friendship to stop Voldemort, Vecna.